My experience in this region, Russia, I'd say in my experience it's about 35%, which is not very good. And he said, well, probably about 25% in Africa. And I said, well, what's the timeline from signing an LOI to opening the doors? And he said about, on average, honestly, 7 years, which is not highly productive. Well, your experience, you've got properties.
We started, the first project we've opened in Nairobi, the Westlands, 7.5 years development for 100 keys.
Oh, so you're there already? I didn't know. Okay.
No, we have 12 operating assets in Africa. Okay. So,
oh wow.
Okay. Coming to a city.
I would have read up if I'd known I was going to be part of the panel. Obviously, I would have read up on that.
No, we're very present. We're the leaders in Africa as an independent hotel operator.
Yeah.
We're opening an office in Nigeria.
Right. Wow.
By the end of the year. Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Probably Lagos. It's going to be Lagos.
Okay, yeah.
Why don't you tout your services? There's always
so you're the developer, or?
No, no. I mean, we're an owner operator.
Okay.
But we're not investing in Africa. So we're only managing. And we don't have any, we don't have the scale to be looking at a franchise. We don't have a, brand that I think would bring enough value for a franchise operator, unfortunately.
So you're a single owner. You own the Fraser Suite and you operate it.
We don't own it in Abuja. No, it's owned by a third party. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, that one thing with, I think there was always a myth that emerging markets aren't ready for franchise, and in my early days in Russia, that was true, and then I learned that it actually changed. I worked with Interstate and brought them into Russia in the early 90s, and the ability they had to know the market better than the brands and develop an infrastructure. I think I changed my mind about that, Attaché, that third-party managers, especially that have an infrastructure, are better in emerging markets. And I think that's true in Africa. The brands are, they're limited with the assets they have, the people to send. And the key is those people they're going to send, the general manager and the like, and they just don't have the ability to staff them with quality people. Maybe a new GM, if you go to Abuja, will make you a GM. Well, that's not the kind of person you need in these markets. You need an experienced people. And I think the third-party managers who know the market are willing to hire outside the Marriott Hilton pool, get someone ideally that's local or embedded, married and knows the community. More flexibility of the third-party manager. It makes sense to go franchise in these emerging markets. Now, I've just sold your business here for you, so why don't you add on to it?
I was going to say, you're our best business developer. Yeah, he's the piece. This is the third panel we do, no? Together on this, second.
Yeah. You anticipated this. And then I work against him all the time.
Yes, that's true. We signed an agreement in Cameroon, and he was the lawyer on the other side of the. But listen, the African markets are beautiful. They're emerging. They have plenty of risks, as you know, but plenty of rewards as well. And the performance after COVID in all our locations has been amazing. The pickup we're very satisfied. And there's a big domestic market, which all of a sudden people were not relying on the domestic market pre-COVID in Africa. Now all of a sudden people just woke up, there's a massive domestic regional market. So.
And do you have service departments in your portfolio yet?
No, not yet.
It's been well received, I think, because also the large families, much like the Middle East, and our property here in Riyadh, has done incredibly well.
We have under development, not operational, but we have under development.
See you on the
huge
battlefield.
opportunities in Africa, I think, for serviced apartments, quality serviced apartments, branded, so Fraser, for example. And the other amazing opportunity would be quality budget hotels. Kind of that will just suck up the entire demand for these mamas and papas shops. So you offer something at $40, $50, just a clean, Holiday Inn Express, Ibis type of product. It's low investment.
Operating
who's your
costs can be
customer
lower.
base?
Operating cost limited.
Are these locals?
So you
who's
take
it- who's it-
Nigeria,
who's-
domestic travel within Nigeria is massive. Kenya is the same. Ethiopia, these countries are. You're talking about millions of, hundreds of millions in terms of population, and to go from one city to another, it takes you 4, 5, 6 hours. And many of them are actually decentralized in terms of administration. So they do a lot of business, and there's also cultural aspect to it, with the tribes being fragmented, and they go to see families. So there are weekend is big business from one county to another, and so huge.
Gauthier, we were talking last night, and what's taken you to Africa in design? So.
Well, we see this more as a consultant point of view. So we design hotels. So, we know from the market studies that in the next 10, 15 years, there will be so many projects in the continent. So we're talking about early movers. The idea of us to move to Nairobi right now actually is to anticipate and to understand the market. Now, of course, we know it's not as dynamic as it could be right now, but it's mainly with the intention and with the vision of the long term. So we have Saudi Arabia on one side, who is very short term, very exciting, very dynamic, and this is where a lot of attention is. Look at the room. Most of the people are mainly interested in quick wins. But then on the long term, I think Africa has so much potential as well. You're talking about domestic tourism. Look at the roads, infrastructure, all this still needs to be improved. It's improving already, but you just follow the routes, and this is where you know that the hotels are going to be positioned. We know you have the airlines, so you have the new roads, and it's not that complicated to anticipate where activity will happen. So we choose to go to Nairobi, and in a few months we already met very interesting business partners that are really wanting to develop projects. Yes, it's slow. You're talking about 7 years. I even read it was 9 years. So I can imagine nobody's interested, But as a business owner, I know that within the next 9 years, I will still be there. So I'm going there now, because I know that I will still be there. If I was working as a developer and I have 4 or 5 years plan in front of me, then maybe I would not go, because I wouldn't want to work for my successor, So I go now. I've done this with Egypt. I went to Egypt in 2007 to open my business there, and today in 22, we are. Everybody is running to Egypt to do projects, And now I have the possibility to move to Nairobi. I have my team in Egypt taking care of our projects, and now I'm already trying to surf the wave of
Opening up a new
2030, I would say. So that's my way of doing I tried, to anticipate the next market. It's a very long-term investment. It's less comfortable than being at the right time, at the right moment, but it's interesting. That's why.
You sound like the great hockey player Wayne Gretzky. He says, "My secret is I don't go to where the puck is. I go to where the puck is going to be."
We play on. We need both. I would not be able to go. And I live in Nairobi with my family. So, but we have an amazing life, and we enjoy our weekends. But of course, I'm traveling every week, every 2 weeks. If I would not have these activities and developments of projects in this part of the world, I would not be able to spend all this time and effort in trying to meet the people and the right ones, and to understand which one will really have this project that will succeed or not. So I think it's when you can work on both segments that you can really start to develop.
But it's also difficult continent, and it's plenty of opportunities. I agree, but you can't do business everywhere, and there aren't opportunities everywhere. It's a massive continent.
You have 54 to 56 countries,
Yes.
depending on the latest
you
coup
count,
or
yeah.
merger. Pick the top 10, in your
So
opinion.
excluding North Africa and South Africa.
Just sub-Saharan, yeah.
Sub-Saharan Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Nigeria, Ghana, Côte d'Ivoire,
Benin?
Benin,
Senegal?
Senegal, sorry, missing one on the west, Cameroon maybe, as well. So, yeah.
Tanzania is doing very
Tanzania is
well.
doing well. Uganda's going to boom with the oil. I mean, you already see the government, and not only, I mean, infrastructure is booming, hospitality is booming, F&B, I mean, is just, I mean, Nairobi, now you live in Nairobi, the F&B scene in Nairobi is very, very interesting. I mean,
You got a lot of local brands and
a lot of
things.
programs, a lot of
outsourcing.
creativity, people spend, amazing. So, but it's, as you said, 55, 56 countries, and there's a say I really like. It's the only dark thing about Africa is our ignorance of it. And people talk about Africa, and it's like if it's one country,
Sure.
it's you can fit in. Actually, have you seen these maps where you have the big map of Africa, and the real size you can fit in the U.S., Europe, and China.
Yeah, it's
massive. So anyway.
I come from Belgium. We have such a small country, and when we visit Kenya, we have a lot of sceneries where it's so big, and the plains are so large, and I feel like I can just put our country a few times next to it. I mean, like it's there, and you don't see anything, just a few elephants walking by. Huh? Well, it's a super big continent. It's true that we talk about Africa as one Africa, but I mean, every country has its own subtleties and.
And I came from a large country in Russia with 11 time zones, and I had a couple people who tried to they were going to do a cookie cutter, 500,000 plus city mid-market hotel like Park Inn, Garden Inn type of thing. We're going to do it in multiple cities, and every one of the brands thought they'd do that, and every one was unsuccessful, albeit same country, same language, same legal system, but nobody had local connections, and because of the lack of transparency in the country, you couldn't either get the land or get the permits. Africa, you've got a big country as well, but you've got, if somebody's touched on the tribal difference, you've got the cultural difference, you have the language difference, the colonial difference within 20, 30 miles, and then you have the legal system difference. Is it a civil law country? Is it a common law country? And every time is different, so you can't do a standardization whatsoever. Maha, with Kempinski, you've got some properties. I mean, you're at the luxury end, which is probably catered more towards the tourists than the local mid-market, which is, I think, what everyone is saying is what is needed. What's been Kempinski's experience?
Well, I'm just reading the title, How to Make the Most of Being First Movers. So the first example that comes to my mind is the Djibouti Palace in Djibouti. And I remember this property is like almost 20 years old. When Kempinski first moved there,
You need a microphone. The room is so large and so many people, they can't hear you.
So I was just mentioning the Kempinski Palace in Djibouti. And I remember this property opened maybe 20 years ago. And when Kempinski expanded there, it was, are they crazy? What are they going to do in Djibouti? And I can assure you that this property is doing extremely well 20 years later. And it's just incredible. You're talking about the 54 countries in Africa. I'm African myself, so I know very well the subtleties between East and even within the East. It's no cookie cutter would make it. The challenge is again the gestation period of development. So you're saying 7 years. Gauthier, I think you're optimistic. It's more
No,
like...
I heard 7 years, and I read
no.
9 years.
Trevor
Maybe
Ward.
for
Trevor
smaller-
Ward says 7 years.
Yeah, for smaller
on a
properties.
luxury, yes, I
yeah.
agree. It's between
It's
9 to
7
10,
years.
yeah.
It's more 9 years.
Yeah,
for
so
really
that's what I heard.
fully-fledged.
So there's not going to be a brand standard freeze on that, is there?
No. So, and I agree with Bani. He mentioned the 10 top cities. Even on a 5-star level, this is the strategic destinations. But I didn't hear anything about the local African brands which are coming up. So I think, Bani, you have seen the Onomos of this world. Is this something that is evolving?
Oh,
or?
big time. I mean, Onomo are quite big. I mean, they're an African brand, but the money is not African. But they're a serious brand. I think they have 25, 26 hotels now in Africa, and they continue expanding. There are a couple of others in East Africa, like City Blue. They have 3 or 4. I'm not sure how many they have. Protea was actually an African brand, got bought by Marriott.
Mantis.
Azalai in West Africa. So there's really good talent from that perspective. But you know, on your point of how to make the most of being a first mover, we were the first mover in our segment, and honestly, we're enjoying the ride. We're enjoying the ride because we're amazing, of course, but there's no one else. I mean, there's maybe one, and the rest are really mamas and papas shops. So, but the beauty of Africa is there are a lot of similarities with the Middle East when it comes to the culture. It's very emotional, and it's heavily built on personal relationships. And you know, all our hotels, whenever we start a relationship with one owner, if he doesn't have the capacity to build another hotel, or he's definitely recommending us to many others. And in every city, you know, we've started in Ethiopia from 1, and then we have 4, and few more under development. Kenya, again, 1, and all of a sudden 5, you know, so on and so forth. So and it's purely based on this emotion, and being the first, whoever is the first mover in Africa,
Absolutely.
now is the time.
Yeah, and you look at these cities and you go in and think, oh, this is really undeveloped. How many times I've made that mistake. But there's money in these cities, any of these cities, how awful it looks, and there is money, and there's nowhere to spend it. And I go back, Russia, the Park Inn brand was created in Russia, and they started out, they'd take 500,000 plus cities, which could support a 3-star hotel. But downstairs, they up-spec'd everything because that became the meeting place in town. So they put in a Paulaner brewery thing that became the place to go for locals on weekends. They expanded the gym to open it up to local residents, so not just hotel residents. And it put in a brand on it, and it became functioning. They added additional conference space because that was where you'd have a celebration, wedding. So you had a 5-star property downstairs, and upstairs it was 3-star property. And it worked amazingly well. I think most of the Park Inns in the world are pretty much, were in Russia. I don't know what's going to be in the next few weeks. But what about the talent pool of labor pool in quality?
Yeah, again, very fragmented depending on where you operate. Some countries have amazing talent, like Kenya, at least from a hospitality perspective, I'm talking. I don't know about your.
I will
your
share
but,
my experience.
Kenya, for example, has been, on the forefront of hospitality. They have a lot of hotel schools since many years. It's not the case in other places. So we tend to spend a lot of time and energy on training. It's difficult for certain functions to get local talent, so we need to bring expats at least for a period of time.
Is that affordable?
It is, so I was going to, so
You're
in some
taking
cases
those-
we bring for 6 months to a year max until we set up the process, then we decentralize. So a good example is revenue management. It's almost impossible to find a revenue manager in, I don't know, Ethiopia. In Ethiopian, for example, the revenue manager is almost impossible. So we sent someone for 8 months, then removed them from the property and made them remote. So because it's not affordable on site, it's quite expensive. You know, when you're dealing in many of these cities, the average room rates are still quite are low as well. You know, on the mid market, you know, you don't really get. You know, we're not. I mean, we don't operate Kempinski's and Fairmonts, so we're in the mid-scale segment. And in the mid-scale segment, you're talking about $100 ADR max. So, but that is a challenge. But you know, they have the attitude. In most of the African countries, except very few, Djibouti being one of them. No, there are a few, but which is where it's very difficult. But typically Africans tend to be hospitable, smiley people, etc. Yeah.
I agree that in
Smiley,
Kenya
say yes
the,
and
the
mean
service
no.
is
Sorry.
very.
Smile, say yes, and mean no.
No, listen. I mean, it is difficult. It is difficult. I mean, but at least in many places they do have the attitude, the smile. Sometimes it comes with other issues related to theft, and you know, it's managing the workforce in Africa is intensive. So.
I think security is a big piece of it as well.
Security is a big piece of it as well. Absolutely, yes.
What about 30 security people in mind?
Yeah. Yes. No, absolutely, yes. We have the same.
What would, let me ask you, if you had the opportunity, given this timeline of 7-9 years, let's say you're looking at mid-market, better to take an existing property, bring you in to do some design, refurb it to a brand standard, and then do a new build?
Yeah, I think to take an existing property goes for a lot of markets now because of the construction costs going through the roof. But,
That's another factor, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we have Fraser Suites should be a 5-star position. We have looked at 4-star as well, Capri by Fraser, in Lagos mainly. We do a Capri in Abuja. You know, yeah, I mean the 10-year, 9-year, 7-year, not great. That's what we're looking at. But I mean that's you know, it's key to, you know, when we talk to people to understand that it can be delivered. Otherwise, I don't know, you throw your hat in the ring, but you don't want to be waiting that sort of time frame really to see something open. You know, the board doesn't get excited.
I think it's definitely a market of refurbishment.
Yeah.
When you look at the timing we were just explaining, I mean, you can't talk about the projects you will open within the next 10 years. You know, so and there is already existing properties that really need to be revamped, and
There's
also
a lot of stalled
yes, and
properties.
there's also a lot of core and shell buildings that have never been completed. So there is also probably something to be done there, which will be faster than considering new, maybe also refurbishment of office towers, you know, that are maybe not really used as such. You know, I mean, there is a big, there is already existing properties that really
We've looked at that. Yeah, we've looked at that. We've had existing offices presented where you know, the owners want, you know, the proposed investor developer wants to acquire and develop. So yeah, we've seen the layouts for that. That can work. Yeah, typically 4-star, smaller cities, secondary cities. Yeah, in Nigeria, mainly Nigeria.
To come back to what you said about your relationship with your clients, that they will recommend you to others, and there is something. It is true that when you come early like this on the market, they are quite surprised. Like, why? What are you coming to do here? It's like, well, for example, in my case, like, well, we have a design office and we want to design projects here. And it's like, yeah, wow. And they find it like interesting because they always used to work with people that are coming and traveling from abroad. But then they are welcoming as well in a way that, I mean, this relationship that I'm building up with new clients or potential clients, it's really very personal. You know? Yeah. Much more than relationship I have with clients that I know since more than 10 years and with whom I've done several projects. You know, like they would invite me at their home for dinner. They are very they are very welcoming. You know? Yeah. I mean, now I'm talking about the experience in Nairobi. I don't know how it is, but we opened. We designed a resort last year in Seychelles. Even the people there, they were so welcoming. You know, they were really like very happy to see us again. And the relationship with the Ministry of Tourism, for example, they are really interested in what we do. So, is this typical from Africa? Can we give this? Maybe, you know, this is maybe something that is typical from the region.
You're on ground. What impact is the kind of vaccine apartheid that exists in Africa from COVID, that there hasn't been widespread vaccination? I think there's perhaps certainly from foreign tourists a fear about going there because it's unvaccinated. They think if they did get sick, they wouldn't have medical facilities. What about in the local market? Do you think it's significantly or will significantly stall redevelopment there?
I don't. It's not really a subject that was that much. No, people. I mean, in Kenya, typically they follow the rules. I mean, and they like you to follow them as well. So, I mean, they were really applying, you know, the right safety rules everywhere. And as soon as actually, we don't really talk about the subject anymore. You know, of course, it has affected a lot the occupancy and everybody, and the country tries to recover. And here maybe I can come back to Tanzania, where the numbers are amazing. I think this is really one of the countries in East Africa, at least, that has recovered the quickest. You know.
That's because there was never COVID there.
It didn't exist. Exactly.
That's what I'm talking. Is this related with the fact that
the president said this COVID doesn't exist?
And then he dies.
He passed away from COVID in Kenya.
Yeah. So he has been a great help for the country because actually, thanks to. I mean, a lot of people are investing there, you know. But
yes, but you know what happened from a tourism perspective, at least, is because the guy went, you know, he said there's no COVID, etc. All of a sudden, many countries, especially Russia and Eastern European, put a ban, and from one day to another, they stopped all flights, and that killed like areas like Zanzibar. The business stopped from one day to another. It was really bad. From that perspective. But Tanzania was the exception, I think.
Now, of course, it's an exception in the region where the other countries were really not doing great as well. So we are comparing bad news, you know. Right?
Well, with this large, any other questions, gentlemen? You came and sat in the first row, so you must have come for some interest. What is your? What is your?
I asked him to come.
Okay, yes.
My experiences are relatively limited compared to yours, but we design hotels, and my first experience of that in Africa was a visit to Accra, to the Movenpick Hotel. Which is, I was just amazed. I arrived there on a flight out of London at 5 o'clock on Friday evening. And I think your point about 5-star downstairs and 3-star upstairs was absolutely apparent. You know, this bar, which they'd asked us to come and design from our Dubai studio, was tiny, but they wanted to spend a lot of money on it, and it was. I've never seen more people physically fitted into one space. I mean, you just couldn't move. You had to shout your order over about 10 people, and they'd pass your beer back to you. I had the most amazing night of my life. It was just fantastic. So I completely get this market are very open to exciting F&B, and our more recent experience with Java House in Kenya. Working with them to look at defining their next generation coffee shop design. there's so much talent and there's so much integrity in their product because it's produced locally, and also in their desire to express their culture through the design.
Yeah.
And it was just a really rewarding experience. I mean, sadly, the budgets and also in terms of investment was limited, but actually their passion and desire and the experience of working them was great. So we'd love to do more in that space.
Well, you must have fun with the design because there's some amazing use of colors and
Yeah,
things.
it's
As
very
long as you don't
colourful.
put elephants and giraffes on things. I know
No, I
people
mean,
get
of course,
offended by that, those stereotypes. But
No, I mean, we design mainly commercial spaces, so there is a DNA of the related to the concept, but definitely it's very colorful. You know? Now we are designing a project in Benin, and it is great. I mean, we can be so creative, you know, because even when you walk around, I mean, everything is so colorful. You know, the clothes they wear with those waxes, it's fantastic. You know, they're all designers actually. You see those streets, it looks like a movie, like a clip. You know, like a. It's really interesting. Now in Kenya, it's less colorful, I would say, and the people are less colorful, huh? Compared. I mean, the way they're dressed,
Yeah.
compared to they're a bit more serious, I would say, color-wise. But still, I mean, they have this. I mean, when you go out at night, it's amazing. I'm discovering now what it means to go. I mean, the Kenyan nightlife. I haven't seen it because I moved there in August 2020. So just as soon as they opened the borders, in the middle of COVID, actually, we moved there, and so there was curfew for more than a year. So it's now actually that we start to. You hear my voice. Actually, I'm discovering the nightlife of Kenya too much. No, it's too much of talks, but it's very colorful. It's true, much more colorful than other continents. You know.
so you wouldn't design beige hotel rooms?
You never
Well,
say
don't,
never.
don't do that anywhere.
We never designed beige hotel rooms.
Okay, good.
No, we've designed a beige hotel room. It's true, but there was a very colorful carpet. You know.
Good.
All right. Anybody else has any questions? It's more of a.
Thank you for
This
coming.
is more of a chat around with drinks than anything else.
Yeah,
Maha,
it's
this is a good opportunity for Kempinski to look at a mid-level brand, and and roll it out in Africa. With you as the development lead, as an African. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
For coming.
Thank you.
For
Thank
this
you
chat.
very
Thanks.
much.